Number 2, let's talk some Cuse football. The Orange getting set to take on UConn on Saturday. Pleased to be joined by Ben Darnell, host on ESPN Radio Hartford. He'll be on the call for Syracuse and UConn. Ben, thanks for coming on. Let's delve into this Huskies team, this opponent for Syracuse on Saturday. 7-3. Their 3 losses are to Power 4 opponents. Got blown out by Maryland. Played Duke and Wake Forest awfully close. And then, they've won their 7 other games. I mean, what do you make of the 7-3 record? How good is this team right now? Do you have a feel for how good they are?
Well, they've been a lot better on defense over the last couple of years since Jim Moore has been here. And that defensive front really plays with passion. Never worried about the defense. The thing about this team that's always the head scratcher is how we win games without throwing for more than 100 yards. That's always been a mystery. We got a great running back stable, as we always do. There's 3 guys that are already over 500 yards, but we're always questioning the quarterback. Nick Everett can come in there, and he can run some 3rd and longs for some first downs. He can definitely turn the chains on some short yardage, but passing is a mystery. And it's kind of been a roller coaster. And Joe Fignano will come in because Nick Evers will be hurt more than it will be his passing ability. And he's decent. He's okay. He can move the ball, but it's nothing that you're afraid of. If this team ever had a passing game, they could be very dangerous. But they do it with defense. They do it with the run game. And you mentioned, Maryland, Big Ten, Duke, ACC, Wake Forest, ACC. I could argue we're a couple plays away from being 9-1 instead of 7-3. If they were to beat Syracuse on Saturday, huge for this program moving forward as far as confidence goes, especially against those kind of caliber conference teams. We beat up on a lot of guys that, it's not going to wow you as far as their strength of schedule. If they can get this win against Syracuse, huge feather in their cap here for 2024.
Ben, I think what a lot of fans in Syracuse have been pointing at looking at this game, besides UConn's rushing attack, is that in the 2 games they've played against ACC opponents, they've both been tight. Syracuse, it was up and down to start, but I think they've kind of jumped a bit in a lot of people's power rankings. Does this feel like a similar vibe to you, where Syracuse is like those other ACC teams they played, I believe Duke and Wake Forest, and just how have they played in those games against those opponents that's allowed them to keep it close against ACC competition?
They do it with their defensive line. We were afraid that Duke was going to throw all over the place, and same with Wake Forest. But the defensive line makes it very easy to play man in the secondary. But let me be honest with you, fellas. UConn's wanting to get into one of these Power 5, Power 4 conferences. And I don't want to blame the refs on your show, especially being in Syracuse territory. But it has felt a little funny on those 2 games in particular, especially Wake Forest, when a pass interference did not get called at the end of that game. There have been multiple games that ACC refs have not really been the favorite of UConn. Now, we don't have a conference, so we got to go get our refs. We use ACC refs. And you would think, since we've been giving them so many game checks, that some calls would go our way. But it never does. This win is big picture speaking, this win is huge for UConn's football program to finally get a win in this particular conference to basically, look better in the eyes of the conference realignment. So UConn, maybe one day, this football program will be with the big boys all the time. But we got to fight these teams and sometimes the 12th man in the stretch to get it done.
That Jim Moore oppressor was elite, by the way, after the Wake game.
I was going to ask you about the, UConn and the hope to be in one of these Power 4 conferences or whatever happens with conference realignment next. What is the plan? What do you see the future being of UConn football? Do you think they land in a Power 4 conference within the next, X amount of years? Or, I guess what do you see the future being for this program?
Well, everything hinges around our basketball programs, and we all know that. As much as we want to pretend that we do care about football around here. Our tailgates are epic. The fans always support. But our bread is buttered with the basketball programs. Now, that looks all in good to Big Ten, ACC, SEC, but the football is where it's at. AC is offered, and I know that's not Power 4, but still, the offering always comes with, we want your basketball programs. We could care less about your football programs. And to throw away the Big East, as you guys have lived through this, that's hard for this area to do. So they're trying to straddle both things, where they want to be in a big conference, but also maintain this Big East love affair with men's basketball and women's basketball. However, if everyone else is going to be changing and these big boats of Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, ACC are going to be the end-all, be-all, and you're not a part of that, winning back-to-back national championships, and by the way, boys, we're cruising for a third. They got their game against Texas tonight, but that's all good. But the football is where it's king, and I really think a lot of people in this area are pushing for the ACC, which would make a lot of sense for basketball on top of football. But if you don't win these football games, then they're not going to want to have you a part of the party.
Yeah. Fran Brown actually said that last night on his weekly radio show, that he looks at UConn as a conference opponent, that, all the games in the ACC come down to about a touchdown, one possession game, and he's expecting no different on Saturday. As you've been preparing to call this game, Ben, studying up on Syracuse, what stands out to you about the Orange, and maybe what concerns you about the Orange from a UConn perspective? What are they most concerned about?
Number one, LaQuinn Allen Jr., as far as on the bullet board and also on the jersey. But, you got to look at the quarterback, Tom McCoy. He does a great job, especially on the short intermediate routes. Like, the one thing I've noticed with Syracuse, they throw a lot of the short pass just to really open up everything else. And they're fine. They're fine with throwing 7 yards at a time all game long. And, I think a lot of that California win was a lot of that as well. But I see the Orange being susceptible. Like watching Stanford, watching UNLV block those punts, watching Boston College. Like, this team can make mistakes in crucial moments that hopefully will go UConn's way. But the biggest thing, I think, is stopping that passing game. If they can do that up front and not have to blitz from all different angles, and can kind of control up front with just 4 guys, I think they can be successful. But they're going to have to score the football to do that. And I don't think you can grind out a 40-minute time of possession rushing for 200 yards and win 17-14 against this team. I think Syracuse is definitely going to score 21 to 24 points at least. So you got to match that in the air. And that's the mystery. I mean, I started this interview with, guessing about the passing game. That's what we started the season with. And we're still here, trying to play our 11th game, trying to figure out how we're going to move the football in the air. If they can do that, UConn that is, then I think they can have some success against the Orange. But first and foremost, if we can stop the passing game on the other side, and this LaQuinn Allen Jr., I think he's a player. I really do. I think this is one of the most underrated guys in all of NCAA. But I think it's going to be a good game, high-scoring game. Looking forward to being in the Dome. And like I said, I think a lot of the boys are hungry to get a win, more so against the ACC, on top of beating the Orange.
Yeah, a lot on the line. As you said, UConn's looking for that statement win this year, beating an ACC opponent. Syracuse looking for an 8th regular season win for just the second time since 2001. So a significant, game for both these teams as they look to come out on top on Saturday. Noon kick inside the Dome. Ben, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate the time and enjoy your time here in Syracuse.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, Ben Darnell, host of ESPN Radio Hartford. He'll be on the call for Syracuse UConn inside the Dome on Saturday. And with that, we will take a timeout.